Many people go through life unaware of the power that runs through their veins. They walk, they move, they live, but they don't realize the history they carry inside their very DNA. Today it's time to wake up. It's time to understand the true origin of black people according to ancient texts. And more importantly, it's time to reclaim the pride, dignity, and purpose that come from knowing the truth. The Bible isn't just a book of stories. It's a record of nations, families, and people whose lives shape the course of history. When you read carefully, you realize something powerful. The origin of black people is deeply woven into the foundation of these ancient writings. From the very beginning, Africa wasn't on the sidelines of the human story. It was the stage where it all began. Let's start with geography. When the early chapters of Genesis talk about the Garden of Eden, they describe rivers flowing out of Eden, including the Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates. The Gihon specifically is said to encircle the whole land of Cush. Historically, Cush refers to a region south of Egypt, ancient Nubia, modern-day Sudan, and parts of Ethiopia. Cush wasn't just a location, it was a powerful kingdom, known for its wealth, culture, and influence. And who lived there? Black people. This is not speculation. It's historical and geographical fact. The descendants of Ham, one of Noah's sons, also played a crucial role. After the flood, Ham's children populated some of the greatest civilizations of the ancient world: Egypt, Mizraim, Ethiopia, Cush, Libya, Put, and Canaan. These were not footnotes in history. These were advanced societies, rich in science, architecture, and governance. Their people, black people, stood at the heart of the ancient world's achievements. Long before the labels of race and color divided humanity, these nations flourished, and their legacy is carved in stone on pyramids and temples that still stand thousands of years later. In fact, when you really study the scriptures, you'll see that Ethiopia holds a special place of respect. In the book of Psalms, it's written that Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands unto God. This is not a picture of a forgotten people. This is a vision of a proud spiritual nation reaching upward, powerful, and chosen. It's a portrait of a people who were not cursed, not forgotten, but significant and worthy of reverence. And consider this: when Moses, one of the greatest figures in the Bible, married a woman, she was from Cush, an Ethiopian woman. His choice wasn't just about love. It was a recognition of beauty, strength, and nobility. Yet when others criticized Moses for his marriage, divine judgment swiftly followed against them, a clear sign that prejudice had no place among those who walked with God. This was a lesson not just for then, but for every generation after. The Queen of Sheba is another beacon of this legacy. She was a ruler of immense power and wisdom, who came from the regions of Africa to meet King Solomon. Her visit wasn't one of submission, it was a meeting of equals. A queen traveled across great distances, not to beg, but to bring gifts, to exchange wisdom, to build bridges. Her story tells the world that black excellence and leadership have always been part of the human story. Sadly, throughout history, the truth about the origin and significance of black people has been twisted, hidden, or minimized. Empires fell. New narratives rose. Colonization, slavery, and racism sought to erase centuries of pride and achievement. But the truth never disappeared. It only waited for those bold enough to uncover it. The power of knowing where you come from is transformational. When you understand that you descend from kings, queens, warriors, scholars, and builders, you walk differently. You dream differently. You demand more from yourself, because you realize mediocrity isn't your inheritance, greatness is. The Bible shows that black people are not incidental, they are intentional. Their presence in the narrative is proof that diversity was always part of the divine design. The richness of different lands, different peoples, and different cultures is not a flaw, it's a masterpiece. Moreover, true strength isn't just about physical endurance, it's about spiritual resilience. Black history, viewed through the lens of Scripture, is a history of survival, triumph, and unwavering hope. Every battle fought, every chain broken, every mountain climbed is part of a much larger story, a sacred story that began at the dawn of humanity and continues today. In today's world, many still struggle with identity. They seek validation from a world that often fails to see their true worth. But you don't need the world's permission to be proud of your roots. You don't need anyone to approve your journey. Your bloodline carries the strength of countless generations who endured, who thrived, who built civilizations while the rest of the world was still finding its footing. When you know who you are, you live differently. You stop playing small. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never designed to hold your greatness. You lift your head higher. You step into your calling with boldness because you realize you are the dream and the hope of those who came before you. Understanding the origin of black people, according to the Bible, isn't just about history. It's about destiny. It's about realizing that you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand out. You were designed for excellence, for leadership, for impact. Now more than ever, the world needs that excellence. It needs voices that are strong and unashamed. It needs leaders who understand their value. It needs dreamers who dare to create new futures, not just for themselves, but for generations to come. Every time you doubt yourself, remember that your ancestors built kingdoms. They charted stars. They mastered the arts of medicine, mathematics, and philosophy, long before others knew these fields existed. Their blood flows through your veins. Their dreams live in your heart. You are not an accident. You are not lesser. You are not forgotten. You are part of a legacy that began long ago in lands that birthed humanity itself. And your future, just like your past, is filled with limitless possibility. Walk boldly into your destiny. Stand tall on the shoulders of your ancestors. Dream with courage. Build with vision. Lead with compassion. And never forget, greatness is not ahead of you. It is already within you. When we explore the roots of black people's history through the lens of the Bible, we uncover a profound and often overlooked truth. Their origin is deeply connected to some of the most influential civilizations the ancient world ever knew. Names like Cush and Mizraim are not mere passing mentions. They represent entire cultures rich with power, innovation, and undeniable greatness. These civilizations weren't just surviving, they were thriving at a time when many parts of the world were still in their infancy. The land of Cush, often identified with modern-day Ethiopia and parts of Sudan, is one of the earliest territories mentioned in the scriptures. Its people, their strength, and their spirit are woven into the ancient story of humanity itself. Cush was associated with wealth, resilience, and a spiritual depth that commanded respect across nations. Far from being a forgotten or marginal land, Cush stood as a beacon of power, influencing trade, culture, and even religious thought during its era. The people of this land were builders of cities, creators of art, and masters of governance. Their legacy stands tall in the echoes of history. Likewise, Mizraim, often understood as ancient Egypt, serves as another undeniable cornerstone of civilization. Egypt's awe-inspiring pyramids, their complex societal structures, and their advancements in science, medicine, and architecture continue to baffle scholars today. It was in this powerful nation that mathematics flourished, astronomy was studied, and monuments were built with a precision still admired in modern times. These were not accidental achievements. They were the results of visionaries who understood the possibilities of human potential. The lineage connected to Mizraim is a testament to the brilliance that black people have carried through generations. Both Cush and Mizraim were foundational not only to African history, but to world history. Their contributions shaped economies, philosophies, and spiritual traditions that spread across continents. These nations existed with their own sovereign strength long before colonization, long before the distortions of historical narratives that sought to downplay their influence. Their presence in sacred texts is not incidental but intentional, providing a record of excellence that cannot be erased. In the broader narrative of the Bible, the descendants of Shem, whose lineage includes both Cush and Mizraim, are depicted as the founders of some of the earliest civilizations. Their impact was so significant that even after thousands of years, the mention of their names evokes awe and respect. Their lands were described as places of gold, richness, and rivers teeming with life. The Gihon River, said to flow around the land of Cush, symbolizes not just geography but abundance, vitality, and divine connection. Understanding this heritage redefines the way black identity should be viewed today. Instead of narratives rooted in oppression or struggle alone, there is an even older narrative of kingship, wisdom, and innovation. The origins of black people are tied to greatness, long before the world knew empires like Rome or Greece. These ancient civilizations laid down the intellectual and spiritual foundations upon which much of later history would build. This history is not hidden. It simply requires eyes willing to see and hearts willing to embrace the truth. The presence of Cushites and Egyptians in pivotal biblical moments, whether in the form of alliances, wisdom exchanges, or spiritual lessons, affirms their critical role in the divine story. Their lands were not footnotes. They were centers of influence, shaping the destiny of nations and peoples around them. Recognizing the origin rooted in Cush and Mizraim does more than correct historical inaccuracies. It restores a sense of dignity and honor. It reminds us that greatness has always been in the bloodline. It calls forth the memory of ancestors who walked tall, ruled wisely, and lived courageously. It plants a deeper awareness of identity that cannot be shaken by modern misrepresentations. Every towering obelisk, every ancient scroll, every legend from the banks of the Nile to the valleys of the Sudan speaks to a people who were, and still are, woven into the very fabric of humanity's earliest triumphs. They were visionaries, pioneers, and leaders, and that legacy continues today in ways both seen and unseen. As history presses forward, it becomes essential to teach this truth, to tell the next generation that their story does not begin in chains or servitude, but in glory and achievement. That their ancestors did not wait for permission to create wonders. They simply built, led, and transformed the world around them. The Bible's acknowledgement of Cush and Mizraim is a call to remember, a call to honor, and a call to rise. It is a reminder that no matter how the world may attempt to rewrite or suppress this history, the roots run deep, the foundation is strong, and the future remains limitless for those who carry this legacy forward. Throughout sacred history, there are clear and powerful examples that affirm black excellence and leadership. Figures such as Moses' Ethiopian wife and the Queen of Sheba stand as undeniable testimonies woven into the ancient records. Their lives and their influence are not marginal notes. They are central to understanding the broad, diverse tapestry of the past. Their stories offer proof that strength, wisdom, and leadership transcended geography, culture, and race long before modern divisions existed. Moses, a towering figure in biblical history, was married to an Ethiopian woman, highlighting a connection to African heritage that is often overlooked. This union was so significant that it stirred conversations and even criticism among his peers, yet it was defended and upheld as rightful and honorable. The presence of this Ethiopian woman in such an important narrative demonstrates that African people were not only present but deeply respected in pivotal moments of spiritual and historical transformation. Her identity was not hidden or minimized. It was acknowledged, showing the reach and respect that African lineage held even in ancient times. Equally powerful is the story of the Queen of Sheba, a ruler whose wisdom and wealth brought her to the court of Solomon, one of history's most celebrated kings. Her journey was not one of subservience, but of diplomacy, inquiry, and mutual admiration. She came bearing gifts of immense value, gold, spices, and precious stones, treasures that astonished even Solomon. More importantly, she engaged him with deep, thoughtful questions, demonstrating not only the richness of her nation, but also the sharpness of her mind. The meeting between Solomon and the Queen of Sheba was a meeting of equals, a dialogue between two sovereigns, each bringing their own greatness to the table. The Queen of Sheba's legacy echoes through centuries, inspiring countless traditions, legends, and historical studies. She symbolizes leadership at its finest, a woman commanding a powerful nation, engaging with global leaders, and leaving an indelible mark on history. Her story, celebrated across multiple cultures and faiths, stands as a monumental example of African leadership and excellence at a time when many parts of the world were still forming their identities. These narratives matter deeply because they counter the distorted ideas that greatness, wisdom, and leadership were exclusive to only certain groups. Instead, they reveal a richer, more truthful history where African descendants played crucial roles in shaping civilization. They were not bystanders. They were builders, thinkers, rulers, and catalysts for change. Recognizing these figures reshapes how we understand history. It calls us to see that black excellence is not a modern phenomenon, but an ancient truth. From royal courts to sacred alliances, black men and women have been central to the human story, carrying wisdom, strength, and a fierce spirit that demanded acknowledgement. The Ethiopian wife of Moses and the Queen of Sheba are not anomalies. They are reflections of a broader, deeper reality. Their inclusion in sacred texts is a profound reminder that leadership has no racial boundaries, that wisdom is not limited by skin color, and that divine purpose moves through all people, regardless of where they are born or how they are perceived. In a world often eager to rewrite history to fit modern narratives, it becomes even more critical to lift up these truths. It is not enough to know these names. It is necessary to honor their significance. Their lives invite us to reclaim a broader understanding of heritage, one that recognizes the extraordinary contributions made by African descendants from the very beginning. These stories inspire a deeper pride and a renewed sense of identity. They empower future generations to walk taller, to dream bigger, and to know that they come from a lineage marked by greatness. They affirm that excellence, leadership, and brilliance have long been the legacy of black people, not just in struggle, but in triumph, influence, and spiritual depth. The tales of Moses' Ethiopian wife and the Queen of Sheba are not isolated moments. They are pillars that support a greater historical narrative, one that says you are the descendant of leaders, visionaries, and kings, one that challenges you to carry that same spirit of excellence forward into every area of life today. Throughout time, history has often been manipulated to serve particular agendas, leaving out vital truths about the contributions and greatness of black people. Generations have been taught a version of the past that minimizes, distorts, or altogether erases the foundational roles that African descendants have played in shaping civilization. Yet the strength of identity cannot and should not be built on half-truths or omission. It must be anchored in a fearless pursuit of authenticity, the real stories, the undeniable facts, and the living legacies that still breathe through culture, achievement, and spirit. Black excellence is not a modern invention. It stretches back to the earliest chapters of human history, from the magnificent architecture of ancient Egypt to the wisdom of Nubian scholars, from the fierce leadership of African queens to the deep spiritual traditions that predate many of today's major belief systems. The contributions of black men and women have been profound and world-shaping. These truths are not new discoveries. They have always been there. It is the willingness to seek them out and to believe in their significance that changes everything. The world's narratives have often attempted to paint a narrow picture of what power, intelligence, and innovation look like. They have built frameworks where black excellence is seen as the exception rather than the rule. But this perspective is not only inaccurate, it is deeply harmful. When people do not know the full measure of their heritage, they can begin to doubt their own potential. When the richness of African civilizations, the brilliance of black thinkers, and the leadership of black rulers are stripped away from the global story, a vital piece of humanity's identity is lost. Reclaiming the truth is not just about setting the historical record straight. It is about healing generations who have been told implicitly or explicitly that their ancestors were absent from greatness. The reality is far different. It is filled with architects, philosophers, warriors, and leaders whose contributions laid the foundation for sciences, arts, governance, and spirituality that the world still benefits from today. Understanding your true identity comes from digging beyond what is convenient or widely accepted. It means challenging false narratives, questioning incomplete histories, and daring to see yourself reflected in the greatness that has been there all along. It calls for courage, the kind of courage that refuses to accept a diminished version of the past simply because it has been repeated enough times to sound convincing. Knowing where you come from gives you a map to where you can go. It instills pride not rooted in arrogance, but in a deep awareness of belonging to something vast, beautiful, and enduring. True identity is forged in truth, and truth has a way of igniting something unstoppable inside those who embrace it. The more you understand about the real role black people have played across continents and centuries, the more you realize that no erasure, no distortion can strip away the inherent greatness that runs through your veins. It is not given by the world, so it cannot be taken away by the world. It is a legacy written in achievements that shaped nations, built monuments, advanced knowledge, and defined cultures long before many modern powers even existed. In a society where images and stories are powerful tools, reclaiming authentic history becomes an act of liberation. Every rediscovered truth dismantles the lies that were crafted to make you feel small. Every hidden figure brought into the light becomes a beacon for future generations. Every realization that greatness is your inheritance fuels a new generation determined to live fully, lead boldly, and impact the world. It's not enough to exist. You must live fully aware of who you are, where you come from, and what you are capable of. That awareness comes from honoring the true stories, not the diluted ones. From walking in the fullness of your identity, not the fractured pieces offered by incomplete narratives. The world's opinions will shift like the wind, but the truth stands immovable. Knowing it, claiming it, and living it is not just a personal victory, it is a collective healing. It is a necessary reminder that Black contributions are not a footnote in history, they are a cornerstone of it. Understanding where you come from is one of the greatest forces behind living a powerful and meaningful life. When you recognize your heritage, you connect to something larger than yourself, a lineage of strength, creativity, resilience, and achievement. It becomes clear that you are not just an individual floating through time, you are the continuation of dreams, struggles, victories, and wisdom passed down through countless generations. That realization doesn't just inform your identity, it ignites a deeper fire to live with more intention, more passion, and more courage. Knowing the truth about your roots builds an inner foundation that no external force can shake. It arms you with confidence that does not waver based on public opinion or temporary setbacks. When you truly grasp the greatness embedded in your bloodline, you naturally begin to think bigger, to believe that more is possible, to envision futures that were once considered too ambitious or too far out of reach. Your dreams stop being limited by fear, and instead they start being fueled by legacy. Pride in your origin is not about superiority, it's about authenticity. It's about standing tall because you know that your existence is built on sacrifices, brilliance, and a spirit that refused to be broken. You carry with you the persistence of your ancestors, the creativity that shaped civilizations, the wisdom that has guided communities through centuries of change. That understanding breeds a different kind of pride, one that demands that you honor the past by making the most out of your future. When you recognize your heritage, you begin to lead differently. Leadership stops being about control or titles and starts being about purpose and service. You feel a responsibility not just to yourself, but to those who came before you and those who will come after. Your actions gain weight because you realize that every step forward can inspire, uplift, and carve paths for others. Your voice becomes stronger because it echoes the voices of many who fought to be heard. Dreaming bigger becomes second nature because you are no longer dreaming just for yourself. You dream for the continuation of a story that deserves to be told in its fullness. You reach for heights that honor the seeds planted long before you were born. You build not for approval, but for impact. You create not to impress, but to elevate. You move through life with a boldness that comes from knowing you are part of something enduring and unbreakable. In a world where so many forces seek to define who you are and what you can achieve, knowing your true heritage serves as armor. It shields you from lies that say you are less. It pushes you to dismantle ceilings others try to impose. It reminds you that limitation is a mindset, not a destiny. The deeper your connection to your history, the freer you become to write your own future without apology or fear. Living boldly doesn't mean living recklessly. It means moving with clarity, with intentionality, and with the awareness that you are carrying forward a light that must not be dim. It means taking risks not out of desperation, but out of faith in what you are capable of. It means standing firm when the world tries to sway you, and pressing on when obstacles arise, because you know that resilience is part of your DNA. Recognizing your heritage challenges you to walk differently, to speak with more power, and to lead with a heart that remembers. You are no longer just chasing success, you are chasing significance. You are not just aiming to achieve, you are aiming to build a life that honors every name, every sacrifice, and every triumph that made your existence possible. In every decision you make, in every dream you pursue, in every challenge you overcome, you are writing the next chapter of a story that began long before you. Recognizing that truth transforms how you live, how you lead, and how you love. It creates a life rooted in pride, fueled by purpose, and destined for greatness. Not because the world allowed it, but because you knew all along that it was yours to claim. Greatness does not arrive through applause, awards, or approval from others. It is not something you must desperately chase after, nor is it a treasure buried somewhere far beyond your reach. True greatness already lives within you. It is woven into the very fabric of those who understand the legacy from which they come. It is not about gathering recognition from the world, but about awakening what has always been there, quiet, powerful, and waiting to be embraced. When you truly grasp your own history, you recognize that greatness is not a future destination, but a present reality. It is inherited, not manufactured. It is a gift carried in the bloodlines of those whose lives built nations, whose ideas shaped generations, whose resilience defied the odds. Knowing your true origin changes how you see yourself. It strips away the noise of outside opinions, clears the confusion planted by false narratives, and reminds you that worthiness is not something others can give or take away. External validation is fleeting, conditional, and often unreliable. One moment the world may cheer you on, the next it may turn its back. If you tie your identity to that unstable foundation, you will constantly find yourself lost and desperate for approval that cannot satisfy your soul. But if you root yourself in the truth of your history, you no longer need anyone's permission to be powerful. You stand grounded, unshakable, knowing that your value was already determined long before anyone had an opinion about you. There is an unmatched confidence that comes from understanding the legacy you come from. It fuels ambition that cannot be dimmed by rejection. It strengthens your spirit against adversity. It turns challenges into stepping stones and criticisms into background noise. When you know that you descend from greatness, from innovators, warriors, leaders, visionaries, you no longer ask if you are good enough. You walk knowing you are built for excellence, because excellence has always been part of your story. Society often tries to rewrite history, to minimize certain contributions, to silence certain voices. But no matter how loudly the world shouts its falsehoods, truth remains. The achievements of your ancestors, the cultures they built, the wisdom they carried, these are not erased simply because someone tries to ignore them. They live on in your resilience, in your imagination, in your pursuit of something greater. The more you learn about the true foundations of your people, the more impossible it becomes to see yourself as anything less than extraordinary. You realize that you were never meant to play small. You were never intended to shrink yourself to fit into the limited boxes that others design. You are the result of dreams that refused to die, of hopes that endured despite overwhelming resistance. You are the living proof that greatness does not ask for permission. It asserts itself through every action, every choice, every breath. Knowing your true history also shifts how you dream. You no longer set small goals out of fear. You dare to dream boldly, because you understand you are standing on the shoulders of those who dared when it was hardest. You feel a sacred responsibility to build on their sacrifices, to add your own bricks to the structure they began. You understand that your greatness is not just for you. It is a continuation of a story, much bigger than any one individual. Internalizing this truth breeds a different kind of ambition, one not fueled by ego but by purpose. You strive not to prove others wrong, but to prove yourself right. You move forward, not because you're seeking praise, but because you are honoring the spirit of greatness that runs through your veins. Every accomplishment becomes a tribute. Every victory becomes a testament. Every step becomes a declaration that the legacy will not be forgotten, and the excellence will not be lost. Greatness is not something you beg for. It is something you embody when you wake up every morning and choose to live in alignment with your true identity. It is the result of remembering that you were born with everything you need to impact the world. It is about recognizing that greatness is not conditional, not situational, not optional. It is who you are when you know where you come from and where you are determined to go. You are already everything you seek to become. You are already equipped with everything necessary to leave your mark on this world. You are the dream realized, the potential manifested, the greatness continuing. The only thing left to do is to rise fully into that truth and walk boldly in it every single day.